What's going on YouTube? Welcome to another video. So in this video, I'm going to be going over what I feel are the top 5 things that you need to buy first when you're just getting started with filmmaking. Now there are a whole bunch of things that you can buy, some of which you may just want, some of which you need. The reason why I put these 5 things on this list is because I feel like these are things that you're really going to need and you're pretty much going to be using them on each and every shoot. Now, before I get into the list, it goes without saying, you're gonna need a camera to get started. Now, I'm not gonna go over what camera you should buy. There are a ton of different options of cameras you can buy. I'll link a couple cameras which I feel are like beginner, intermediate level cameras which you can get started with, but you can get pretty good results with almost any camera if you know how to use it. So check out the links below if you wanna check out some cameras that I recommend, but you're gonna need a camera to get started. So with that being said, let's get into the list. The first thing that you're gonna wanna buy is some fast lenses. And by fast, I mean lenses with a 2.8 aperture or higher. Now the reason you're gonna wanna go with a lens with a 2.8 aperture or higher is because when filming, you're gonna really get a good depth of field, that nice bokeh, that blown out background. Depending on what you're filming, whether or not you're filming like indoors or lower light situation, the fact that the aperture will be 2.8 or bigger, it'll be real wide, so you'll be able to let a lot of light into the camera, so you'll be able to get better quality footage in lower light situations. Now, don't get me wrong, something with the aperture of a f4 is usable depending on what you're shooting, but like I said, it kind of limits you depending on your environment. So if I was to invest into some type of lens, I would want to make sure that it's at least a 2.8 because, as I stated, you're going to get that good depth of field, you're going to have good low light capability. Now, as far as the type of lens that you should buy, in my opinion, if you're going to buy one lens, I would go with something like a 24-70, or if you're on a crop sensor camera, I would do something like a 18-55 or 17-55, 17-50, because that range right there covers you in so many areas as far as what you can do. You know, you can get wider shots at 24 or 17 if you're on a crop sensor. You can zoom in to 70 or 50 if you're on a crop sensor and really get some nice punched in images as well. I actually just posted a video on why I feel that the 24-70 is the best focal length if you're gonna have one lens. So go ahead and check that video out. I'll link that in the card up above. Now, other than the 24-70, I would really next then invest in some fast prime lenses. Prime meaning that they don't zoom, they're at 1/6 aperture. I would recommend you buy like a 35mm, a 50mm, or even an 85mm if you really want to punch in, or you can even go wider than that and get a 20 or a 24mm. Now, most fixed prime lenses come with an aperture of about 1.8. So like I said, that even wider aperture will get you that good low light performance that you're going to most likely need. And like I said, better depth of field for those clean images. So now that we have our camera and our lenses, we're gonna need some type of way to stabilize our footage. Now, there are 100 billion different things that you can buy to stabilize your footage, but there are only really 4 things that I've ever used. The first one being what I'm using right now, which is a tripod. Now, I know I don't have to go into how a tripod works, but what I will say is a tripod is pretty much where everybody's gonna start. It's good for talking head segments like this, or if you're doing some type of event and you wanna have your camera just sitting there, you don't have to worry about maneuvering it or holding it. It's pretty much the most stable, stationary way to get any type of footage. Now, I've seen people also use monopods, and the monopod with the foot, or you can also get a fluid head mechanism if you wanna like pan and have that smooth, consistent footage. So number one, as far as stability and camera footage, would be a tripod. Now, if whatever you're shooting requires you to be mobile and moving around, you're gonna wanna get yourself either a Glidecam or a gimbal. Now, there's pros and cons to both Glidecams and gimbals. I'm not really gonna dive too deep into that. There's a ton of videos on YouTube if you wanna compare the two and find out which one is better for you. What I will say is, I feel like if you've never used any type of like stability mechanism, you know, for mobile type of shooting, I personally would start with the Glidecam because you really won't appreciate the gimbal. It sounds stupid, but you really won't appreciate the gimbal until you use a Glidecam first. Now with that said, a Glidecam will give you smoother footage and it will be more appropriate depending on what you're shooting. Now if you're shooting like real estate videos like I do, or if you're shooting some type of event where you want just that like slow, kind of like epic feel to what you're shooting, just that smooth feel, then you can go with the gimbal. But sometimes when you're recording more faster paced things, using a gimbal, it doesn't really, the movements don't look as like realistic. It looks like too smooth. And that's where the Glidecam, I feel like, is better. If you're shooting like quicker things, even though the gimbal does have sport mode, I feel like the Glidecam is a little bit more natural, that just natural movement, that just like camera shake a little bit. It looks a little bit more natural depending on what you're recording. I'm not sure if I mentioned the Glidecam is cheaper than the gimbal. I feel like I sold my Glidecam, but once you buy a Glidecam, I feel like there's no real need to ever really buy another one. I just got the Ronin S not too long ago, and now they came out with the Ronin S2, and I feel bad that I bought the Ronin S like 2 months before before the new one came out, and I actually sold my Glidecam, like I said. So once you buy a Glidecam, you always have the Glidecam. I'm pretty sure motorized gimbals, they're like probably just getting started on where they're gonna go. So just keep that in mind. Now, one more thing I wanna touch on as far as camera stabilization. If you find yourself wanting to shoot handheld, but you can't really get really smooth movements handheld, you're gonna wanna get a camera cage with a handle. Now I currently shoot with my Sony a7 III, and I do a lot of shooting in the gym, and my hands are pretty big and the a7 III is kind of small, so I like to use a camera cage with my camera because it allows me to, you know, open up my stance a little more and just gives me better, stable handheld footage with my Sony a7 III. All right, so once you have your camera, your lens, your method of stabilizing your footage, the next thing you're gonna wanna focus on is your audio. And as far as audio is concerned, me personally, I know you get what you pay for, and I'm real big on that, but I like to try to find the more budget audio setups as long as they sound good to me. And one thing that I feel everybody should start out with is this shotgun microphone right here. Now what this is a Tascam shotgun microphone. It's about $21 or maybe be as high as $26 on Amazon, and this is pretty much the best bang for your buck in terms of just getting started with audio. Now you can use this microphone a lot of different ways. It's mainly used for like vlogging, or say if like I had an audio setup where I can like put this up here on some type of boom pole where you couldn't see it. You really can't beat the value that it offers for the price. Now the second form of audio that I really recommend is the use of a wireless microphone with a lav. As you can see, I have the transmitter right here for my Rode Wireless Go. That's what I'm using. I got that in my pocket, got the lav mic running up my shirt, and like I said, it allows me to be, you know, far away from the camera. It's also good if you're shooting something like an event, if you're shooting just like an interview where you may not have a boom pole or the proper setup to hide a shotgun microphone, or you may not be able to afford the higher end shotgun microphones. The Rode Wireless Go is a really good system. I actually did a video on this as well, comparing this to another wireless system. I would check that out, but in terms of just performance, reliability, you cannot go wrong with this microphone. So now that you have your audio squared away, the next thing you're gonna wanna get are some lights. Now I currently have my light set up to the right of the camera. What I use is a Godox SL60W. It's pretty well reviewed here on YouTube, and it's pretty much the best light that you can buy if you're on a budget. It's about $130. And I also got a softbox with it that's inner diffused, and like I said, set up to the right of my camera. You can see how it looks on me. I would get this light if I'm just starting out, or you can get a higher end light, like something like an aperture or some other type of light. But as far as expensive lights, I feel like if you're gonna wanna invest into something that you're gonna be using all the time, that's great. I haven't really found that I use my light too much outside of what I do for myself here on YouTube. So when I feel like I need a more expensive light, you know, for better quality in my video production for other people, then I would invest into a better light. But if you're gonna be doing something like just talking head videos like this, YouTube or even shooting basic interviews. Like I said, you can't go wrong with the SL60W. You also see the SL60W newer version. It's pretty much the same light. You put that with a softbox and boom, you have the best budget light setup that you can buy. Now the last thing you're gonna wanna make sure that you grab, especially for filming outside, is a variable ND filter. Now the variable ND filter I use is from Tiffin. I also did a video on that as well, so I'll link that up above. You can check that out. But the reason you need a variable ND filter is because when you're filming outside, you know, the sun is doing its job. The sun makes everything real bright. And unless you cut your aperture up to like f11, you'll have a blown out image and you'll lose that depth of field and that bokeh that we talked about when we were talking about the lenses. So in order to kind of tone everything back down, you're gonna wanna buy yourself a variable ND filter because you'll be able to change the lighting that's coming into your camera, you know, from 2 to 8 stops with that ND filter that I have. And that will allow you to have your aperture at the proper level to have those clean shots, that nice blown out background that you spent your hard-earned money for with that 2.8 lens that you bought. Otherwise, like I said, you'll have to jack your aperture way up and you won't really have that like cinematic look to your footage at all because everything will be in focus. So you really want to take that into consideration. There are a lot of different variable ND filters on, like say Amazon, eBay, B&H, but the Tiffin is pretty much the only one that I have experience with and it works well. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and end this video. I really hope that you found value in it. If you did enjoy it, if you could just do me a favor and just hit that like button for me, I would really appreciate it. It's been helping out my channel. And comment down below, did I miss anything? Is there something that you feel like should be on the list if you're starting out with filmmaking? Comment below some of the things that you use, what camera you shooting with, what lenses and lighting and audio setups do you use? Comment below, I would love to hear it. And until then, I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, baby.